All right, hey there traders, Sam here from TradeDevils.com and TradeDevils-indicators.com. Today we're looking at the latest addition to our suite of tools for Ninjatrader, and this is the big round numbers indicator. Now I have in front of us here, this is the September Dow chart. It's a 15-minute chart, and I have our round numbers indicator applied to it, and then I have our toolbar up here as well, as I may grab some things here just to make some references. Now, what you're seeing here, I should note here, I'm recording this on Saturday the 11th here. So the current trading, we've just now rolled over to the December contract. But because we're looking back at history, I'm going to work with the September version. And it's a pretty good one to start with here. So we look here and say, so the 34,500 was our low back here in August. And you'll see, while there's just a push through and then a retest here at 3,500, we essentially go from 34,500 all the way up to 35,500. And you'll note here how this big round number seems to offer the resistance up here. Now it's an unknown as to whether or not this is just human nature, in that we are drawn to these big round numbers. It's easy on our brains to look at this as a target and calculate it, or whether or not it's algo driven. My guess is perhaps a little bit of both. Now, looking at that, so here, I mean, we're damn near, it's tick to tick, right? It's pretty remarkable. But you'll also notice here that while there's a little bit of a test here, we stall, we get through and then recheck here, but over here we're not even close to it. So the point being, this would not be enough to trade on by itself. But boy, awfully nice to have as an additional confluence point here. If you were, for example, perhaps you had drawn this up here as your resistance, and you're looking at this saying, hey, well, we come back up here, perhaps that's resistance. Well, it would be easy to, in the heat of the battle, not notice that you're coming right to that big round number. Now, of course, Ninja will, give you a little highlight here. You can sort of 35.3 is getting a little highlight, 35.7 is getting a little highlight. So you can't, but I find myself very often I won't even see it. I won't even see the big round number even though it's right in front of me. So this is really a nice tool to keep you from forgetting, oh, hey, I don't know, I'm coming up to that 35.500, so maybe I want to pay attention here. So it might be, and particularly here on a 15-minute, you might be looking at this as perhaps some resistance, and then maybe dial in on a lower time frame or whatever you're using to define the precision of your entries. You can see here that this might be a useful tool for you. Now, if I go, I'm going to show it to you in a couple of the markets, and then we'll look at the parameters, because you would need to change these slightly and save them as templates for the different markets that you'd be applying these to. Let me pop over to the NASDAQ here, because we do this differently. So I'll pop over here. This is, again, I'm with the September NASDAQ here. Now, if you look over here, now again, it's not every time we're going to get a reaction, but there is a nice little section here where you can see how this could have been quite useful. Just grab my little swing tool here. So we come up here, we bang it to the tick here. So that's 15,000 reaction. Now we go through it, now back to the tick. Now, is it just the reaction off of this pivot, right? Is it just price action here? Prior resistance becomes the support. Is it coincidental that that's happening exactly at 15,000 even? Well, again, you'd have to draw your own conclusions here, but if you were just looking at this based on the price action, thinking, prior resistance, potentially support here, the additional factor that I've got this big round number here would give me more conviction in taking that trade. I mean, that's a classic. Oh, if you know my teachings here, I'm not an advocate of taking the breakout. I want to recognize the breakout, but what I'm looking for is the retest, right? And we get it just, I can't script that any better. But of course, notice, now up here, we blow right through it, right? So it's not an absolute. But you might notice here that if you're looking at this going, okay, well, I've got the big round numbers, here I've got 500-point increments. I've got those identified, but perhaps I want to cut that in half again, recognizing that there might be something happening halfway through. So if I come over here where I've done that in the parameters, well, look at that. Now I've just cut it in half. So you can see here now this, potentially, it's you'd call this a secondary, right? So it's not, we put the primaries in red and the secondaries in this gold color here. And you can play with these and make changes. So if you were to notice, like up here, that something's happening up here at 700, I mean, now you could change those parameters and add whatever levels you choose. But we would encourage you to start with the big round numbers, right? Those are the ones we're going to put in red, and then you can tweak within any of these that you like. Now, if you happen to be an owner of our toolbar, one of the nice features here, if you own the if you own the wolf range, so I can take this and I can, because it's going to do, we're looking for range expansion. I can go to one of these and say, well, would it be worthwhile if I look at this? Do I want to cut that in half again? And just looking at this, I might. Right? Reaction here, reaction here, reaction here. Not quite there yet, but again, it's just I'm giving you an example here of how you might want to fine tune it based on using some of the tools that are available to you. Now, let me get rid of that. So I think that it's relatively simple, or conceptually, right? There's not a lot to it other than identifying the different ranges that you want to choose, and we're giving you a lot of flexibility there. But I think it's really can be quite useful. So I like to keep it on the 15-minute because I want a little more time rather than have it down on a, say a 512 tick chart. I want to see the bigger picture here. So if I were here, right, then I'm going to dial in on something where I'd be looking for a reaction. Perhaps I'm looking for just a reaction scalp, or but depending on your trading style, it could be something you're looking to enter for a longer-term swing trade. It's up to the individual user. All right, so with that, let's pause for a second and let's go look at the parameters. Okay, so now I've opened up my indicators here, and I'm looking at the TDU round numbers, and here are the parameters that I have to work with. Now, we were just looking at the YM, where we had the big round numbers, which are level 4. We had that set to 500. Well, here now in the NASDAQ, you're going to do that. You're going to have to set this differently, and I would encourage you just to set templates for each of the markets that you're applying this. So in the NASDAQ, well, we got to do it a little bit differently. So 4 ticks is 1 point. So if we want to get what here we're looking for 500, 2,000 divided by 4 is 500. So we put in 2,000 here for the level 4, which is going to kick the big red number. I mean, you could do the colors however you like. So for example, if the red was clashing with some other indicator, maybe you had your, I don't know, your pivot support and resistance levels in red. So if it's clashing, you can change those colors. So just for demonstration purposes here, I'm using the red and the gold. But level 4 is essentially your big round numbers. And then you subdivide here if you want to show level 3, 2, or 1. So here, of course, we're just cutting everything. So you can get as granular as you'd like in terms of identifying those round numbers. It's up to the individual. I always encourage people to start with level 4, and then if you start to see something happening either halfway or quarter or 3/4, then start adding that if it's adding value to what you're doing. But where the big reaction you could anticipate is going to be at your level 4 levels, right? And then it's easy, right? If I take off level 3 and apply that, well, then I'm going to lose the gold, and I'm just going to go back to the red, right? As you just see. Now in the so we looked at in the ES, you would do it slightly different, where you'd put it at 400. So again, I would save this as a template. Then if you we're applying this to the ES because of the way that subdivides, your big round numbers would be at 400. And then if you wanted to fractionalize that 150, again, it's up to the individual. But what I'm trying to emphasize here is that the level 4 will be your big red numbers. Those will be the biggies. And then of course you can set alerts, right, when they're tapped. I tend to find that the more times it's tapped, the less effective. It's the first time it's tapped, or first or second, that you can see a good reaction here. And I think this was this nice example here. So we hovered around it, and here we come ping off of it. Now again, is it the round number or is it the price action? Right? If it's both, all the better. Right? It's just more conviction in looking to get long at that pivot. Right, so I think it's a relatively simple indicator, but you'd be surprised how often that can give you, might be one trade, might be 2 trades that can make the difference in your day, week, or month. All right, guys, there you go. As always, you can always demo these. I would encourage you to take advantage of that. 5 full days. Use it. See if it's beneficial to you. That's 5 trading days, not calendar days, and you'll find that link directly underneath this video. All right, happy trading, guys.